welcome to this week's video. Something a little bit different for me this week. I'm doing a bit of a gear review video. Actually, if I'm being honest and truthful, it's more of a gear comparison than a review. Let me explain. So all the vloggers, all the big name vloggers at the moment, all are talking about the new Nikon Z8, and it's a stunning camera. And I'm really tempted, really tempted. Reading the specs, just looking at everything it can do, I think I'd really enjoy owning one. But I've done a bit of soul searching, I've trawled through the specs, and I've had a really good look at my bank balance, and there's just no way I can justify it. And talking of those specs, that's the thing. I've got a Z7 here. It's not even a Z7 II, but it's a cracking camera for this type of photography I do, mainly landscape photography. The incremental leap to the Z8, I don't think it's big enough to justify that expense. So talking about those incremental changes, the small leap, in my opinion, that it is to the Z8 from the Z7, or certainly for my style of photography, I decided to dig out this little beauty. So we've got the Z7 there with its best part of 50 megapixels, mirrorless, all sorts of whistles and bells, all the camera I could need. And then I've dug out this. This is my D40. Now this little beauty has only got 6 megapixels, but it's the first digital Nikon camera I owned. And it's from that point onwards, I've been pretty much locked into the Nikon ecosystem. So it's got some shortcomings, don't get me wrong, but I'd be interested to just see, can I still get some decent images from this? To be honest, when I bought this, it really wasn't so much about the landscape, and it was just because it was small and light. I was doing a lot of mountain biking, and I just wanted something to throw in my backpack. So my photography's changed, admittedly, but yeah. So I'm at Padley Gorge in the Peak District. So let's see what we can make of this place, and let's see what we can make of these cameras. So here is that composition over my shoulder. It's these ancient, gnarly old trees. It's a real classic of Padley Gorge. I'm going to take a shot with both cameras. I'm going to try and keep the settings as the same as best I can. One thing to note though, is that the D40 is a DX camera. It's got a 1.5 times crop on the sensor, so whatever millimeters my lens is at, I'm going to have to try and compensate for that and try and get something roughly the same in composition. Yeah, so we'll rattle off a few shots, see what they're like. I'll put them up and you can have a look. We can see if we can compare. In case I didn't mention it before, I'm not alone on this little trip. Well, I set off alone. I was up at Ladybower trying to capture, and failing miserably, just capture the sunrise. And my phone pinged and I had a message saying that Dave Peck were on Facebook Live.
Right, I'll talk to you a bit more when I'm at the top. Morning, Mr. Sugden, hope you're well. I know you're out and about in the landscape somewhere, doing stuff.
I know it's Stanage Edge in the Peak District, so we're only about 20 minutes away from where I was. So it seems silly not to at least let him know and maybe talk about meeting up. So yeah, so much jokes about who's stalking who, and we ended up meeting up, which is great. It's a bit silly really, because I'm going down to see him. He's going to show me around his neck of woods at the end of the week, but yeah, it's always nice to have some company. So my time at Padley Gorge were quite short. Dave's only up here for a few days, and he's keen to cram in as much as he can. I don't blame him really. I know from experience that his favourite tree, like a lot of people's, is the silver birch. I think it's voted the nation's favourite type of tree. And only a stone's throw from Padley Gorge is this place. And if I spin you around, hopefully you can see it's absolutely teeming with silver birches. So yeah, we're going to set the cameras here. We're going to carry on doing this comparison, and let's see what we can get out of this D40. So one of the limitations on this D40 is its focus points. It's only got, and this seems unbelievable to anybody who's used a modern mirrorless camera, it's only got 3 focus points, which makes composing and focusing your images just a totally different ball game. You compare that to any modern mirrorless camera, the Z7, you can pretty much focus all the way across the sensor. I actually don't know how many focus points it's got, but yeah, what you see is exactly any point you can focus on. In fact, I'll look it up and I'll just put how many focus points it's got. I'll put it on screen now. So that's got its limitations, but yeah, we'll work around them. Just try and capture this scene. It's so quiet and still here. It's beautiful. It's so quiet compared to Padley Gorge. So hopefully you've seen a few images now and you've been able to have a good look at them. I think if you're like me, you'll be pleasantly surprised at just what you can get out of such a simple DSLR with it's just a standard 18 to 55 kit lens that I'm using. I think definitely, other than usability, the biggest letdown, biggest shortcoming is that 6 megapixel crop sensor. For social media, for looking at it on YouTube and Facebook, Instagram, it's probably all the megapixels you'll need. But if you need to blow them up, if you want to print them and enlarge them, say, I don't know, anything bigger than A3, you're really going to struggle. I've been lucky enough to blow some of mine up absolutely huge. I was approached by Leeds University, for example. They wanted one of my images for their refectory when it was being renovated, and I'll show you some images. Now, they wanted it absolutely huge. We're talking wallpaper size. There's no way that the images off of this camera, they just wouldn't stand up to that kind of abuse. So yeah, I'll stick to the Z7 for now. It's definitely, the images are more usable to me, that's for sure. So the other thing this place is famous for, other than silver birch, is there's a quarry. There's a cliff face behind me. It drops down into some sort of algae-laden green water, which sounds revolting, but it's quite photogenic. And there's a little tree just clinging on for dear life growing out of the cliff face. I've taken an image of that before in its sort of autumn glory, when it's all nice and red and orangey colours. It's still got the last remnants of the summer greens at the moment. We're just in first week of October, so the leaves haven't turned yet, and but I'll get an image of that, and again we'll compare between the two cameras. Let's see if those mighty 6 megapixels can do it justice. Right, that's me done for the day. I've sent Dave off. I've let him go enjoy the rest of his holiday. I've told him I won't stalk him anymore. Well, not until weekend. And hopefully you've seen enough images that you can see there's still some life left in those old DSLRs. You know, it has its limitations. It's not the greatest camera. It never was, to be honest, even when it were new. But do you know, if it's the only camera you've got, it's better than no camera at all. So if you're thinking of taking up photography as a hobby, don't be put off by the expense of all this latest cutting-edge gear. Buy yourself a couple of lenses, buy yourself an old DSLR body, dip your toe in. I think you might find it's a hobby you'll enjoy. And you know something? If it's one more photographer, that's one more of us and one less of them. So until next time, I'll be seeing you.